know like half of you and I don't know half of you, so I'm going to go meet the rest of you really fast. Yeah, we have Brian. Sorry, I'm also doing this good stuff. Hi. Nice to meet you. I'll probably use the mic because I like the mic.
You do.
Yeah, where are you? What's your name? I didn't hear it anymore. And where's number 3? Let's go find him. Hey. I'm meeting everyone. My name's Anna. I knew your name, but I still wanted to shake your hand. Hey. I've also attempted to play the clarinet and to dance with it. So I have total respect for that. Which was awesome. I like mics. Can you hear me? Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a totally bizarre time. To put it mildly. I guess, you know, we talked about maybe trying to have a conversation after. I'm going to keep my reading pretty short. Maybe we'll have that somewhere else, or maybe we'll have that in small groups. But I've been driving for 8 hours today, and I drove for 8 hours yesterday, so I've had a lot of time to just think and like listen to audiobooks. And I just keep thinking like that in some way, my biggest fear in terms of resisting what's happening is that there will be contempt among various factions of the left. And so I guess I'm curious about how to figure out a way to both respect people's differing, I don't know, ideologies and still somehow work together. So I don't know, that's something I'm interested in talking about. To talk about, obviously. I just so my dear friend Phil Cordelli was here earlier. Yes. And they're gone now because they went to gather stuff for Standing Rock tomorrow. But I was talking to Phil about farming. I live in upstate New York in a rural area, and actually I co-run a space that's a little bit like this in conception. In fact, Counterpath is one of my inspirations for it. But we're in an incredibly rural place. I mean, there's like 2,000 people in the 20 miles around us. I have a pond in my house, and I sit at that pond every morning, trying to meditate. And so the poem thing, so I was talking to Phil about this, and we were talking about climate change and how, you know, when you're growing, and I also grow a lot there, as do all of my community members, and you know how when you're growing, I'm an urban person originally, but when you're growing things, you become aware in a very different way of, you know, like, oh, the season was longer, it was longer, you know, and there's no water. And I live in a very wet area of upstate New York, and our pond is usually very full, and it was very low this summer. And I just kept having, as I would sit out there every morning, I kept having this fantasy, like, one day, like, negative fantasy, that one day it'll just, you know, usually you're like, oh, it's a dry summer, next summer it'll be full, but that, like, that's definitely going to change, and it's just going to go down and down and down, and one day it will be empty. And I was, after my little morning, like, quasi-meditation sessions, I was trying to write a little bit, and these are the poems that I wrote. This was before the election. And you know, I'm always pretty pessimistic, but now that I'm looking at them again, I'm like, oh, maybe I did know what was going to happen. Anyway, so the pond in here is real, is all I'm saying. And these poems all sort of borrow, each of them borrows a line, pretty much each of them borrows a line from another writer that I've been reading like over the course of the summer and the early fall. So I'm just going to read their names. I don't know how to tag the lines or if I will, but Simone White, Sarah Uribe, translated by John Kluker, Farima Took, Meyerhold, as quoted by Ohad Maromi, Tonga Eisen Martin, Megan Zahar, Jennifer Nelson, Lynn Hijinian, Mary Berger, and Sean Collins. Draft. All I was thinking or would ever think was happening, and it couldn't be stopped. Some of us were in the pond as the level went down. Fish swam ashore and died. We were lovers and friends, but it wasn't enough, or it was barely too much, timing, etc. So what to do? Some effed anyway, off in the reeds. Some watched television underwater, speech upon speech, sung from the bullfrogs' throats. Believe me, they said, and some did, and we believed ourselves for a while. It was night, but there was too much light, who knows from where, and some closed our eyes against it, while some closed our mouths instead. There was an agent among us who was trying to work, phone hoisted in air, afraid because nobody was green-lighting anything. Jobs were scarce and paid to scale. The agent was in tears, and then the phone went dead. There was something dead about the whole scene, unless you were actively friending or effing, or thinking actively about friending or effing, sincerely, and writing it down. Writing was gone, though, or soon it would be, so some were actively becoming bodies again, while some did the opposite, which no one could explain. The light became brighter, and we closed and closed. We believed ourselves more and more. Our belief had a smell to it, or some other thing to it, which meant we attracted and multiplied. The level went up with each newcomer, so we closed and friended and effed, and wrote sincerely as if writing would end, which it would. And some were in plain sight and some off in the reeds. And when plain sight became intolerable again, we closed and the reeds shook. They won't stop shaking. I like dreaming about that river, you know, bones at our feet. Today the count is low, but you say, wait, prisoners bide their time. I can't abide the structure, Aristotelian act, micro-meme TV. My grandmother's name was Ismini. I don't want to relive the past. This is a draft for a longer poem, polemic, para-revolutionary scroll. I'm just warming up, but our metabolisms really should be on fire by now. They're not. We're not. It's a mess, and no one will tell me what to do. Sometimes I just want to point to the books that everyone should read. The dog sighs and is perfect. Love, my loves, don't go. I'm here, I swear. I'm just not legible yet. Wait. I'll read the paper, fine. They'll question attachment, again, autonomy, whatever. I'll end the poem. Meanwhile, scientists fight crab for mysterious purple orb discovered in California deep. Gunman, man at arms, my dream. Don't tell me the water is foul. I have 6 hands of victory under my belt, tiles to kill for, export quality fur. But governor, dream, don't go. Lesson 1, try to land. Lesson 2, reflect. Lesson 3, when you catch yourself saying, pull the trigger, pull the trigger. Man at arms, dream, take your leave of one after one of me. Dump me up, see? This is what's meant. This is what was meant. This is how we write it down. We write with our trigger finger, with our 6 hands. The water smells sweet. We made it. We're making it now. Work should be made easy, congenial, and uninterrupted. Exactly. But this is a threat. Some of us collaborated anyway, warping and wefting till reeds made roof. We built a house, at least the thought of one, collapsible, invisible, gold. The gold was seasonal, as we all were by then, futurity on and paralysis with it, good riddance. But still we had to eat. Drops fell slowly through the gray sky to the gray surface, which reflected for an instant the number we'd become. I stopped breathing. Somebody said, let's play trust, and we all went below and practiced catching ourselves. Well, not all. The agent and a few others had found an old razor and were shaving their legs, singing Bob Dylan and Sade, I'm not kidding, while blood trickled over their toes. That was fine. Everything was fine. We're all fine. Just learning to live without oxygen again. And work was everything writing had been, and what effing and friending could be sometimes were. Some of us lit up at it, and some dimmed down, but that had to do with the drugs we liked before. It was fine. We would be able to defend our shores. Biorhythmic variation meant someone's always awake. This was only until things got ugly. There was still some silver in the gray, which shimmered. We floated to the surface and returned to our stations. The house we were building was beautiful, every corner to be used in such a way that it could not be used up. We do a drug of no texture and argue to lose. Trust what? Shivering, one can count on that. That inner text the experimental cineast calls motion, I call it recompense. Now you're talking, because no, I'm not leaving this beautiful rectangle I woke up in. We get high and chest bump, forget in the morning, shy smiles. We share. I told you, I've got nothing left. The sign says, we're headed to Vegas, are you? Okay, I've been turned on by that glow before. One day I'll write a play to be performed by non-professionals. You be loser, I'll be loser too. The things we think we can touch aren't there. That's why we fall in love. It isn't exactly that people paired off, there's no law against that or anything else. Some of us did, tugging at waterlogged clothing, waterlogged hair. Some chose to paddle to the middle alone, take our pleasure in through our eyes. What we could touch confused us, dark hunger, mute fear, the notable absence of small talk. We just had no appetite for niceties anymore. We laughed with our mouths closed. That's what winning means, the person behind me said, hoisting something necessary to the roof. Later, we'd gather, most of us, to argue our next move. The arguments were academic. Our ranks had stabilized, and we weren't yet worried about much, besides the obvious, of course. It was an okay time. It was a time, we lived it. It changed us, and eventually we changed. Yeah, don't believe in suffering. I owe you. Forget the terms of the arrangement, else dig a hole, climb inside with me. I read that one about the water wars too, the one about bugs, ash borer, oak wilt, hemlock woolly, adelgid, HWA. In our hole, we eat blight, it's so pretty, patterns to make you swoon. The question is always the same, whether we go alone or not. Sounds so embarrassing when you put it that way. Like reality TV, or that parlor game where a chance operation picks your adjunct power one. Just think what you do with the parallels. 3 minutes in the closet, 3 more of us in the home. Go it alone? There isn't a particle for that. I felt your autocorrect and moved on. This is self-care, I'm taught to believe, so is riding our bike past the Union Jack. Never so angry in all of my life, right? Here's a list of things to undo. The tyranny of sunshine, the tyranny of leaves that shiver on screen of IRL, the tyranny of trying, the tyranny of wits, the tyranny of editing the sentiment out, the tyranny of resonance, of non-resonance, the tyranny of risks. It was so light it hurt. We were so light we had to give up bottom feeding, which came as a relief. The realization of risk arrived late, as it does. Some of us swam around chanting Marco Polo, or every minute proves the reality is conditional, while some idly stroked our clits. We had the sensation of building up to something, but all the language in the air made it impossible to think. We handed out roles and swapped until everyone was happy, or provisionally happy, not me. I was trying to change into something that hadn't been named, but embarrassment held me back. I looked at the rest of us, black, carnival, and suddenly started to cry. It was everything I wanted, sun showers and rainbows, and still it seemed out of reach. Or that was just hunger, stocks running low. The agent had already all but given up. The house had been finished, but nobody went in. We were afraid to. It was shelter, and we'd only just emerged. Every day the opportunity to decline the obligation will arise. We'll field it, hand over hand. This one took 12 years to form. Watch me destroy it in a heat of passion. I mean, children, they're like bookmarks, right?
No.
Somebody invented an emotional test. You take a steel pipe, any diameter will do, and brace it against the corner of a room. Then lean in. If you don't have an interior corner to use, additional risks pile up. People don't like to see blood. I once used a tree, but I lost my bearings and tumbled downhill. The results are scored on a numerical scale. 1 means yes, 2 means no, 3 means only if duty demands. Is this where you leave me, loves, or I leave you? Some of us closed, and some who couldn't close broke. Some of us left the pond altogether. The leaves fell too early and all at once, making it hard to determine a route. The smell of their rotting formed a definition, expressing origin, expressing separation, expressing agency, and we revised it with every step. That was good. That was okay. It was only a draft. We weren't in a hurry, the time was short. We carried writing at our sides, but we couldn't say why. We paused now and then to look back at the pond his level had sunk to an all-time low. Some of us saw us, friend to friend. We waved, we drowned, we waved, we drowned, we waved. Thank you for listening.